Welcome to the Coast to Coast Pick 5 preview show for Saturday, March 9th. Gino, the monsoon has gone away, and in Southern California, it will be bright, sunny skies on Saturday.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because we're going to preview a coast-to-coast Pick 5. That's an all-stakes Pick 5. Has some really good races, a couple from Gulfstream and then 3 from Santa Anita. So many ways that you can make some money this weekend. Don't forget about those Pick'em contests. They're free, Chappie, every Saturday, every Sunday. Pick'em.santanita.com, $500 to the winner, totally free to enter. You answer the 12 prop questions. And if you're like a contest or a tournament player, always great opportunities at ExpressBet for you to check out, tournaments to get qualified for. I think the next big one coming up is the Florida Derby Challenge and the Santa Anita Derby Challenge. So a few weeks to try to qualify. Like I like to try to play in those smaller tournaments for $40. You can then win your way into like a couple $100 tournament and then qualify for the big one for, just a $40 instead of the couple thousand. That's sometimes a little bit too much. So whatever your bankroll is, even if it's free, like the Pick'em, we got action for you this weekend.
Plenty of action. And like you said, terrific racing always in the Pick 5 sequence. And with the dollar minimum and the 15% player takeout, it's been just the payouts have been terrific each and every weekend. But on top of that, the card at Santa Anita is absolutely terrific tomorrow, Gino.
Yeah, the field sizes are really good. And even in a few of them where we may have a favorite that stands out, and we'll talk about the graded stakes race for fillies, the Santa Isabel. I think Kinza will actually have to face a couple other really tough fillies. So it won't be just a field of 4 or 5 where sometimes it looks like that overwhelming horse is just going to have a walkover. That's not going to be the case at all. I was really excited handicapping this sequence. I thought it was a challenging one. And we also have quality in the races too, which make it even better.
Plenty of qualities. So let's get it started. The first leg is Gulfstream Park Race 9. We're going 5 furlongs on the turf here, Gino. Field of 8. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of these horses, come out of these similar turf sprint races down at Gulfstream Park. Panther Island and Coppola ran 1-2 on February the 10th when they raced against each other. Coppola, it was one of those weird situations where it was sort of like a blessing in disguise. Coppola misses the break and ends up right after getting kind of shuffled back. And he ends up much farther back than he'd ever been, but they were flying early. So the race ended up setting up perfect for him. If he was more involved early on, it probably wouldn't have. I thought that it was just sort of a perfect circumstance for him that day. I really did think Panther Island ran so well, sitting third, moving into that very fast pace early on. To me, he just represents the horse with the most versatility. I know he's drawn down to the rail, and sometimes that could hurt, but he has enough speed and tactical speed to get out of the gate well, put himself in a good position. And if he has to use some of that speed down inside, just to hold positioning, you'll probably have Kinthari and Yes I Am Free towards the outside, flashing a little speed as well. And, the horse to beat is Big Invasion. We see so many of these horses now around this time of the year, every week, where they're making their first start of the year. They raced in the Breeders' Cup. They're certainly the class of the field, but maybe they're not 100% here. Maybe they're not fully cranked. I do think if there's any type of pace in here, he'll probably be pretty tough to hold off. I may try to get out of this thing 1-2. 6 Kinthari would be the other one that I would be intrigued by. I'm probably just going to try to use those for you to get out.
Yeah, I think like you said, Kinthari is the one that makes the race interesting, because if Kinthari goes, clearly Yes I Am Free is going to send. So it certainly looks to set up for Big Invasion, who's going to be odds on in here, but still quite an interesting race to start the sequence off, don't you think?
Yeah, and because a horse like Panther Island could get the trip that you're hoping to beat Big Invasion with. Sitting just behind the speeds, get the jump on a horse who's a deep closer and might, run really well late and finish second or third. So I want to make sure I use at least someone that could be in front, well in front of Big Invasion, at least in that next, like that second flight of horses. Probably going to go 1-2 in here. Maybe the wild card Kinthari.
1-2 for you. And we stay at Gulfstream for leg 2, and we go to race 10. We're going 6.5 furlongs in the Hurricane Birdie. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, Spirit Wind is the slight favorite on the morning line in here. I don't think the race sets up all that well for her, is that she's pretty quick, but she does seem a little one-dimensional. I don't know how much she wants to sit off the pace. Looking at the way this race shapes up, if we have Lady Rattler stay in this race, I think she was cross-entered in another, she's going to be quick. And the other real quick horse is Red Carpet Ready, who's going to be fresh and drawn down inside with Luis Saez. So I think that could make life a little bit difficult for Spirit Wind in here. I'm going to look at, I think, the 2, 5, and 7. Red Carpet Ready's races last year early on were very, very good. I thought that she was going to be really talented, and then she got injured, and we haven't seen her for quite some time. But she has a ceiling that might be the highest of some of the fillies in here. So I wanted to make sure I throw her in just in case. I thought Olivia Darling's probably the horse to beat, just based on the trip she should get. She'll make her third start off the forms, off the bench. Third start of the form cycle. She's probably going to get a little more speed in here to chase, and I think she fits really well. The price play for me, Chappie, is Libin. Drawn to the outside, you have a horse who's run well sprinting and all the way up to about a mile, and then those races going a mile and a 16th were just a little bit beyond the scope. Now you get to cut back in here, and I think should get a really nice trip drawn to the outside of all the speeds. This horse could sit off a little bit. We'll have some fitness cutting back. I think Libin is really interesting. Tyler Connor's a super capable rider too. He'll kind of come in sometimes on these big days now, and I think he's riding for Safi because he's had some good success with it with that barn. So Libin will be in the mix for me. I'm probably going to go 2, 5, and 7 in here.
And you always like to dig a little deeper into some horses, and Libin at 12-1, drawn outside. There is a lot of speed. And even in the debut, which was a very productive race, horse ran second, then reeled off 3 in a row, all at one turn. And now she cuts back again to that one turn. Very interesting at the 12-1 price.
Yeah, because we haven't seen her have to sit way off the pace yet. But when you have to ask yourself that question, I think 2 things. Number one, if a horse is drawn to the outside of the other speeds, that always makes it a little bit easier for them to sit off. Then if they're down to the inside, it'll force them. It's just so much harder to sit down inside of horses than it is to sit right off the flank of horses. And also, if she is 3 or 4 lengths back and she has to overcome that, at least we're getting a big price on her. And she has to do something for the first time. I don't want to take a really short price on a horse that might be having to do something different, way different. So she offers us really nice value in here. She's the types of horses that, as a gambler, I like to mention. Because everybody will talk about a horse like an Olivia Darling or a Spirit Wind. But I'm always looking for a horse like this that might make your pick 4 or pick 5 because you only need one of them.
Only need one. And like we keep preaching week in and week out, the payouts on mostly every week, the payouts have been astronomical. We've had a couple chalky days, but very rarely. That's not the norm in this pick 5 sequence, Gino.
No, and I'm doing the previews, the videos for DRF now on Saturdays and Sundays, previewing the coast to coast. And I was normally spending, when I put out tickets, I don't ever like to put out huge tickets because I don't want to put out a ticket that nobody can play, you know? So I always like to keep things sort of shorter. I was always in like the 50, 60 range, but I even mentioned I spent 108 on the last couple because I think if you're going to play this thing, put a few extra bucks in it because we know it's worth it. We know it's worth adding another 5 or 6 to 1 shot instead of cutting a horse like that out.
No doubt. All right, so let's move over to the Santa Anita portion. This will be the third leg of the sequence. We're going to race 6, the Santa Isabel field of 8. We've got full fields all the way through, even the stakes races here at Santa Anita this weekend on Saturday. Kinza 4 to 5 in the morning line, has won quite easily in both starts, and even last time out going 2 turns for the first time. But this race is interesting, and she's 4 to 5. I mean, we're looking at she's going to be what, 2 to 5, 3 to 5 in this race, Gino?
Yeah, and the real key horse to me in this race is the one right next door to her outside. She's a Tempest. She's a Tempest faced Kinza on February the 10th. And they were not far away from each other early, but basically I think, had to make a decision early on, and She's a Tempest decided to track inside and sit just behind. And that didn't work out. So a lot of times I think when you try one thing, it doesn't work out. Hey, next time, let's at least, Kinza might be better than us, maybe, but let's at least get in front of her or make her work really hard this time. Let's put the blinkers on and make sure we get right out of the gate and we're aggressive. So if Kinza has one horse to her outside, at least flashing speed, then you have, in my opinion, one of the, if not the best riders, just period, but one of his strengths is knowing what to do with horses who have tactical speed. And you know exactly where I'm going. I'm talking about Prat, because he is so good at knowing, do I go? Should I sit? Is now the time to put a little pressure on? Hey, you know what? This horse didn't get out of the gate that fast. I'm just going to shoot through from the inside. He has that clock in his head, in my opinion, as well as any rider out there right now. So I'm looking at the way this race could set up, where you have Kinza with a speed horse. At least she's a Tempest to the outside. You also have Ultimate Authority to the inside. You have, even to the way outside, if you ain't first, you're last. Not necessarily a horse who's as classy as the others, but just flash speed. And if this horse is in this race, I don't think they're going to want to be coming from way out of it. They're going to try to be forwardly placed in here. Now, all of a sudden, you could talk yourself into 3 or 4 horses in here flashing speed. Where's My Ring was on the lead last time out. There's another one who they could try to get aggressive because it worked well for them. They finished second.
She added the blinkers last time for the first time as well. So that might make the difference. Yeah.
You know, so I thought Kinza was a little bit beatable in here. A couple horses that I want to play if you're playing against Kinza or using Kinza with others. Navy Bell. If some of the things I'm talking about come to fruition, well, this would be the horse that would really benefit the most. She won going 6.5 in her debut. She had a good start. She's going to track back a little bit to 4th. And then all of a sudden she was back to like 6th at one point, way out wide. And she had a very nice win. Visually, it looked really good. And Glatt has been rolling all meet long. And everything he's sending out is good right now.
And the 2 horses that she beat were both Bob Baffert horses who ran 2nd and 3rd. So that was not 6 horses in the field, but it wasn't some layover field.
Nope.
And like you said, she sat back, exploded late. He's been on fire. He's terrific second time out. He's terrific sprinter out as well.
And then the one Ultimate Authority, who I was mentioning a little bit, her debut, she was behind Copian. In her second start, she lost to She's a Tempest. And that was a situation where they were just battling all the way throughout, and she ends up losing the photo that day. And then on February the 2nd, she had a good start. She sat 3rd. She loomed up. She took the lead. Had to work a little bit to put away Where's My Ring, but she could get a great trip in here if she's just sitting right behind the speed. So the 2 horses I need in this race are Ultimate Authority and Navy Bell, because I think they really could get trips. And this could be a race where maybe you could beat Kinza. Kinza is super talented. Maybe she does that. In the 8th race we're going to talk about, I'm going to completely throw the favorite out. I don't completely dismiss Kinza and the way that my pick 5 is going to set up. I'm chucking favorites in a lot of other races, so I probably will use 1, 4, and 6 in here because the rest of my ticket isn't really chalky. So I don't mind using this as a try to get stay alive leg. But I do think both the 1 and the 6 are legitimate here.
I am absolutely with you. Those are the 3 I am using, 1, 4, 6. And I think Kinza is going to get the acid test tomorrow. Look, she might just be that good. But like you said, there's prices along the way that even if she wins. But if you beat her, this is when we're talking about these payoffs that get up in the $30,000-$40,000 range.
Yes, absolutely. And we, to be honest, a lot of times when we have these really short prices, they're in short fields against fields that they just overwhelm. And even on speed figures, these horses aren't that far off from her. She doesn't really tower over them. So let's take a little swing and see if we can get some value there as well, because I think we have a beatable favorite to close things out.
Absolutely. All right, we move on to the next race, which is actually race 7. And this is the San Simeon Grade 3, the race we love the most, down the hill. And what a terrific field. I can't wait to see your thoughts on this race. I have some thoughts as well. And Gino, start us off here.
I kind of forgot how bad a beat it was for Mucho Del Oro when you watched the race last time out. If you haven't watched that race, I can't recall a last 3 strides that a horse has and makes up more ground than Irideo did, gets the best of the bob. It was sickening if you played Mucho Del Oro.
It looked like Mucho Del Oro won, and it looked like you said with 10 yards to go, it looked like the horse had no chance to get up as it is.
It was one of those situations where when you're watching the replay and I'm doing the work, I'm like, I'm watching the wrong horse, right? You know, that I'm looking at the wrong way. Oh, it's one of those. And then that was so bad. And Mucho Del Oro hadn't raced since June, was right on a 21-1, 43-2, 43-3, like half mile. They were flying. This horse was right there doing all the dirty work, opens up, and then just gets nailed. And that was the first start in a while. And this horse should be a little bit sharper now. Not only does he have good speed, he can also sit off a little bit, which I think will benefit him quite a bit. I mean, he loves the hill. He's really, really honest. So I think he's a must use. The horse who is a real wild card to me, and I have to include, is Ottoman Prince for the D'Amato. So if you watch this horse's race at Epsom last time out, he didn't have a great first furlong. He was kind of bumping around a little bit, but then he got up to third pretty quickly and sat nicely just behind the leaders, going a mile and a 16th. We always talk about how we love horses that have that sort of tactical speed routing, and then they cut back down the hill, which is exactly what we're looking at here with Ottoman Prince. He kind of moves up to the lead. He waits a bit, and then it looks like a few horses from the back are going to come and blow right by. And as soon as they get within his flank, he just kicks into another gear like he was playing around with them. He travels really weird. He has if you watch his workouts too, he has a very low head carriage, but this horse has some ability. He almost like runs out of his skin when he's running. Yeah. He looks like, I hope this is the right spot for him. There is really something here with this horse. And if you look at his synthetic races, they were right around this trip. So we know sprinting should be no problem for him, where he wins at 7 and at 6 furlongs on the synthetic. And then he proved he's fine on the grass with that good effort last time out. He's the real wild card to me in here. I definitely need him, Chappie. Those were my top two, but then following them, it's so hard to knock either Laneway or Air Force Red and how they fit in here in this spot. Very, very challenging race. Really fun race to bet. I'll probably play one ticket where I'm 3-6, probably another one where I go something like 3-6, 7-8, maybe. Like I'm trying to get Dancing Buck in the mix. He has a win at 7. I just think he's a little bit better at 6 though than he would be at 6.5. Santa Anita's card is very good. This was a fun race to handicap, man.
Even off the layoff, I think my top pick would be Air Force Red. Obviously, we talk about this all the time. The hill is such a different race that horses either love it or they don't. Clearly, Air Force Red loves down the hill. Drawn outside, there is a work on XBTV on February 25th. The horse looks ready to roll. The workout was excellent. Frankie Dettori jumps aboard. I think the last 3 weeks we've talked about Frankie Dettori, A, just his riding style alone, and B, the way he rides the hill is unbelievable, Gino.
He's similar to what we were talking about with Pratt too. He's one of those that make great decisions with horses up front. He's a fantastic judge of pace. And you and I have said this a few times on these shows, so we probably sound like a broken record, but I didn't know that about him until I watched him on a race-to-race basis, how good of a speed rider he was. And this should be a perfect fit for him. He's drawn to the outside, which is a great draw down the hill. And what is nice is last year, in particular at down the hill, he can sit a little bit. I don't really like him sitting at a mile. At a mile, I want him going and trying to run horses off their feet. But down the hill, he can sit off a little bit, even if they're going really fast, and have a little bit to finish. So I like him personally too as a horse, and he'll make his way onto some of my tickets in a really fun San Simeon.
He's been one of my favorite horses over the last.
You hit him once pretty good last year, right?
Yeah. I've singled him more times than I can count. Back to Ottoman Prince at 8-1 with Pratt jumping aboard, which A shows ready. You watch that last race, another workout. We always talk about XBTV. It's terrific to go there. Everything is free. You can watch the works visually. That the workout on February 18th was very nice. It was in a drill of 3 horses, drawn on the outside. This horse just kind of flew by late and looked fit and ready as well.
You were kind of watching the work, and it was the way it's labeled. He's way behind him early. And I was looking at it like, which horse is, and then you see him fly by. Oh, that's who he is. That's the one. And I said, you'll notice he has a little, like a unique action, the way he carries his head, which I sort of you just kind of notice those things about horses. And he's a trier. It just looks like in his works and races.
Yeah. But now those would be my A's, my B's. We're talking Mucho del Oro, obviously Irideo, who made that giant move, who was down on the rail the last time. It'll be interesting to see this horse coming from the clouds again. And I keep going back to Sumter. I really liked Sumter last time. Sumter was clearly outrun by Irideo because Sumter had the outside. Irideo stuck down inside, finally gets loose and makes up 4 lengths in the last 20 jumps. Sumter worked very well again. Mandela's having a terrific meet, hitting at a 34% clip. I kind of, at least on a spread ticket, I got to use Sumter as well, Gino.
Yeah, and Irideo scratched out of the spot last week. They were going to run in the Kilroe for this spot, which is a little softer, but he's more of a player in here. He beat a similar type field. He could really get, if they go flying, he's one that comes running. And challenging race, there's probably, honestly, the inside horse I think would need to improve just based on what we've seen. Other than that, I really wouldn't be shocked by anybody else in the field.
Yeah. And we haven't even discussed much of Lane Way, who loves down the hill and who's actually 3-1 on the morning line.
Yeah. And this horse, you just go through the last 7-8 races. He was a horse who had always shown ability, but took a while to kind of break through. And it's funny, a lot of times those horses end up being good down the hill when you just can't figure out it's too long is a little too long and too short's too short, and they need something in between. They usually end up kind of being good down the hill. It's just that a lot of times people don't want to say, oh, I have a turf sprinter. It's one of those things that you get to as a last resort because you want to try going longer, going a little, bigger races, bigger money. This horse fits very, very well here. They found a home.
No doubt about it. And Mike Smith kind of started off a little bit cold, but he's been heating up as well, too. So Mike Smith back on laneway. All right, we go to the last leg. Another terrific race here. The Grade 1 Beholder Mile at Santa Anita, race 8. And, you got a couple, Adair Manor coming off of the layoff, 5-2 on the morning line. Then you got a very lightly raced horse, Sweet Azteca, who just absolutely pounded her foes by 12 lengths the last time, but she's yet to go 2 turns. What are your thoughts here?
I'm chucking Adair Manor out for sure.
Yeah.
So if you look at Adair Manor's races, she has 7 wins. These are the field sizes in her victories, including her 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 6. So she has never beat more than 5 other rivals in any race. And if you look at her races, she's never had to really come from off the pace. She's always been right on the lead or just behind overmatched horses. That's not going to be the case in this race. I do not think she is going to get a very soft trip in here. She's probably going to have to be a few lengths farther back than normal because Sweet Azteca is very fast. And that's the type of filly who should just be winging it. They should just try to go super fast and open up. And I think because of that, I have to use Sweet Azteca to try. If I'm closing out the pick 5, there are definitely versions of this race where she just runs away from the field. So she's on the ticket, no doubt for me.
Could be Lone Speed. There's no doubt Pratt's going to lead unless, like you said, he's got the clock in his head. Unless something we don't see on paper comes up, he's going.
Yep. Now, if Adair Manor's kind of aggressive, tries to put pressure on the 6. Let's say the 3 green up also could be forwardly placed in here. Interstate Daydream draws to Tori. I thought she might have been a little beyond some of her better races, even based on her placement. If you look at the races Brad Cox had her running in, she wasn't facing top tier horses anymore for a while. She wasn't in graded stakes races. I'm not sure if she's still got the same ability that she had earlier on in her career. I'm using Sweet Azteca. There are two others that I'm going to use in here, Chappie. The 4 Desert Dawn. I think I get a great trip.
Agreed.
She is a mare that I think could have a very big 5-year-old year. She's run some big races. I mean, this is a mare who was only beaten a length and a quarter in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. She has faced top company all through the last couple years. She ran well as a 3-year-old. She's continued that on. You've always known what you're going to get from her. She's more of a closer, more of a mid-pack to closer. And unfortunately, in Southern California, when she's in a lot of small fields, she's going to finish second and third and lose a lot of those races because she can't make her own trip. This might be a totally different story. And as she's gotten a little bit older, she's actually shown like a little more tactical speed, a little more maturity. I loved how she was positioned last time out, just kind of out in the clear, kept there nicely. I'm going to use her and probably even the one, Coffee in Bed, who is lightly raced also. This horse has some upside. She wasn't that far behind Desert Dawn. Desert Dawn made a move. Coffee in Bed had to sort of wait and then come around. And I don't know if Coffee in Bed would have won, but it would have been a little bit closer between those two. She'll make her second start off the bench. And I think she's got some upside in here too. I'm going to use 1, 4, and 6 to try to close it out.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I think this is a race that, unless Sweet Azteca just goes gate to wire, I'm against Adair Manor as well. So I think we could get a price in here. Desert Dawn, very interesting. Coffee in Bed, very interesting. Don't look anything into, Pratt Road, Desert Dawn, and Sweet Azteca. Of course, he's going to stay on Azteca. Yeah. Antonio Frizu has had a terrific meet who jumps aboard, so there's nothing against that horse. We're going to get a couple prices in here. If one of those horses is Coffee in Bed or Desert Dawn, we could light up the tote board here late, Gino.
Absolutely. And this is the race where it looks like, Adair Manor is a little bit vulnerable. She will take a bunch of money no matter what. I much prefer Sweet Azteca because maybe she stops, maybe she doesn't want to go this far, but she has really shown something in those few races. And if it's not her, I think we have, Desert Dawn and Coffee in Bed as horses that could be sitting in really good spots in here and taking advantage of a pace scenario that collapsed. So this race, also, at Gulfstream, we were talking about the race with Spirit Wind, where I think that one was vulnerable. There are some vulnerable favorites in here, depending even on how you feel about Kinza in the middle. So a lot of these pick 4s, pick 5s tickets are about structure. It's way even more than just picking winners of races, right? How am I building these tickets? How can I make the most money? How can I, maximize? So really fun sequence to handicap, and let's see if we can connect.
Any final thoughts, Gino?
Yeah, just make sure to get involved. First Racing has this thing every Saturday, every Sunday. The reasons why it plays so well, dollar base minimum. So you can't spread out and play huge tickets. You have to be a lot more cautious about the horses you're using. And, the 15% low takeout. DRF gives free past performances for the sequence. We always tweet that out. Santa Anita tweets out the link, and so does First Racing. So you just click right on it, and the PPs are right there for you. You get them all set. And, man, I'm always starting my handicapping and my work for the week right off the bat. Gulfstream races come out early in the week, so I always look at the last 3 or 4 because I know a couple of them are going to be in the coast to coast right away. That's become my go-to now. So hope everyone can score this weekend on it. And Saturday and Sunday, if you ever need more help, I'm posting the videos with analysis of the sequence for DRF each and every Saturday and Sunday. So we're pumping these up for First Racing, and we hope all of you are playing along.
Terrific coast to coast once again, pick 5, and a terrific card at Santa Anita. And remember, first post Saturday is 12:30. First post on Sunday, 1 o'clock, because we're finally changing the time. It's going to be lighter, a little bit later now, Gino.
Absolutely, I love it that way. Yeah, I'm more of a night person myself, so I want those extra hours there. And Chappie, I was out there last week visiting you. It was a lot of fun. We were able to hang out a little bit on Big Cap Day. I had a fantastic pizza. There's always great food, great events out there. If you're anywhere close, head on out to the track, take in the live experience. I had missed it. I hadn't been around all that much, but I've been able to go out there a few times and hang out with you this year. So I'll be back in at least a few weeks on Santa Anita Derby Day.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see you again. And everybody join us. We're here every Friday evening previewing the Coast to Coast Pick 5s. and the cards to come, and a big weekend ahead of us. Gino, thanks for joining us. Everybody, good luck. We'll see you next week.